Good evening. Welcome to tonight's council meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First thing I'll do is open up for public forum. If there's anybody here wishing to address the council, now's the time to come forward. Seeing nobody in the audience, I'm going to go ahead and close the public forum and ask for the, if there's any agenda changes and then approval of the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, staff have no changes to present this evening.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, after reviewing the consent agenda as submitted, I'd make a motion to approve it.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. We'll move on to unfinished business, and the first item under unfinished business is distressed property at 126 East 3rd, and Ethan will update us on that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That is the Townsman Motel property, just east of us here. Included in the packet, the 3 bids we received for demolition of the structure from Becker Building, D&H Construction, and Dave Hennis. The city has passed both resolutions 2022-14 and 2023-07 that's asked and gave a due date for the property owner to either fix the property or to raise it themselves. Both of those timelines have been sufficiently surpassed. So we have those 3 bids for you all. I don't believe, unless Brad has anything new to report, that I've received any communication on the property other than when Council President Torres and I met with the property owner, and again, we're given the general indication that there were plans, but nothing concrete was presented, so.
Brad, you have all the administrative warrants and everything in place for us to proceed?
In terms of signature on them, no. Ethan and I talked about them yesterday. They're ready to go. But I figured if we're going to get a bid approval, then I want to have a window, I think, is kind of what we talked about.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what day they're going to be there, but if we know who's going to be doing it, it's a little easier. But yes, they're ready. They're prepped and ready.
Are there any hidden costs before the demolition?
The only thing we need to have done is the asbestos remediation, which was bid at about $880. That might change, I don't think drastically, just because the condition of the building is different than when they first bid it. But that's the only other thing, and then that gets us the needed signatures on the KDHE. So it would just be if the demo contractor ran into something, but I mean, utilities have been off for a while, so
Okay.
we're not anticipating any surprises.
I've been wanting to ask this, I just keep forgetting. Do we have a drone where we can do some video or pictures? No. I'd like to reach out to somebody, see if we can get, somebody has a drone that can fly over that thing, get pictures as it is. Here it is, 2 months? We're working on 2 months after that windstorm and nothing's been done over there. So for him to contest us about raising it isn't gonna go well for him. I'd like evidence to show at the latest date that, we've got aerial pictures, we've got ground pictures. If we can reach out to somebody who might have a drone to get us that stuff.
I can't imagine anyone wanting to keep it the way it is. I'm surprised they haven't been
Yeah.
complaining about what's taking so long to get it taken down.
Well, my thoughts on the matter, council, is I believe we need you to select the company to do just that this evening, so I'd entertain that.
Well, we've got 3 bids there, and obviously, one of them is busy enough, he doesn't want to do the job. And we have D&H, who's at 24.5, Becker Building at 26,145, and Hennis Excavating at 82.5. So if there's no discussion or questions, I would make a motion to accept the bid from D&H Construction to raise the Townsman Hotel.
Let's see, I'm still reading here. I'm on the wrong one here. So you said D&H?
D&H, he's a low bid at 24.5.
Yeah, I'd motion to have.
We have a motion, I just need a second.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to accept the bid from D&H for raising the Townsman Inn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That is done. You got what you need now, Brad?
That's really it in terms of, we'll probably contact them candidly. I'll ask Ethan to find out what their mobilization date is. So I work with that and make certain that we get this other inspection done before that, and then kind of see if I can narrow down how much time they want to, will give us, I think they said 48 hours notice or so, 10 days, somewhere in there.
Sounds like a plan. Do we have like a ladder truck in our fire department?
Well, yeah, I mean, they have an aerial stream. I don't know, it's
Yeah, they could do the same.
officially
I mean, is it capable of a person being up on top of it?
pretty high up, yeah.
Why don't we just go raise that up over the townsman and get some pictures?
Yeah, yeah.
Or is that no?
Just trying to
Think we
think
can keep
outside
it on
the
the city
box.
street, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that way that can take care of that. It'll give our fire department something fun to do.
And I think we have, I mean, to
It's not fun.
Council President Torres' comment, we do have some, I think it was 3 or 4 days after the storm, drone footage that Harvey County Emergency Management got, and you can see the townsmen in portions of it,
We do have that.
so.
Okay.
But we'll definitely get pictures.
I would like
Before
something
we-
date stamped and all, so we can show how far down the road, that nothing has been done since the storm.
Okay, are we done talking about 126 East Third?
Keep you apprised as it progresses.
Do we need to continue this for any reason, or is it something we can slate again?
I'd set it over.
Okay, so we want to make a motion to continue this to the next council meeting?
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to continue the distressed property hearing at 126 East Third until next council meeting.
And this is for, just to,
Just to
So he
keep
can
it
know
on
what
our
he's doing.
agenda so we can stay updated on where we're at.
Hopefully we'll, yeah,
I'll
have
second that.
timelines.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue the distressed property hearing for 126 East Third to next council meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Thank you, council. Next is a distressed property at 308 Chestnut. Want to bring us up to par there, Ethan?
Yeah, as y'all might originally remember, you technically gave until July 8th for a formal response. Did meet with the contractor. I believe Mr. Pugh is here this evening, so he can answer any questions. We passed this out. This is a scope of work that Mr. Pugh has put together on the hospital inn. I know you all have some specific requirements or thresholds you're looking to be met to accept, and so since we're well in front of our date for formal action to be taken again on July 8th, wanted to present that to you for your consideration of whether this is meeting what you all want to see, if you want more detail.
Randy, why don't you come on up to the podium? I'm sure my council's gonna have some questions for you.
Did we want anything inside? I mean, this is all outside. Was there anything inside that was concerning?
I don't remember from the structural reports.
No, there was nothing inside.
Yeah, there was the structural, he wasn't able to get in, was he?
We've, an asbestos inspector went in, but didn't find anything that needed remediated in that property specifically. And other than that, most of our observations are limited to the outside, so.
I guess, council, my primary concern with this, I know Mr. Pugh, I know he's probably done a lot of work to put this together. The one thing that hasn't been addressed is any kind of a timeline. I'd like to see, okay, when are we gonna start phase one? When do we think we'll start phase two, which will give us a way to track the progress on the project? With Randy being here as the contractor, that would be a question that I would want to pose to him.
If I can get my money, it'd be after the 4th of July, I'll start.
Phase one.
Well, complete.
So you're trying to get the money up front for both phases before
Yes.
you start the project?
For everything.
So if that happens, how long do you anticipate phase one
I
to
talked to
take?
Ethan, he said, give me a 5 to 6 month window.
You think you can handle it well
Oh,
within
yeah.
that? So you can have phase one and phase two done within 6 months after starting at the 4th of July?
Oh, yeah.
That's a commitment you're willing to make?
Yep. If Ozzy's gonna stick up with his.
I think that's a reasonable expectation, council. You tell me what you think.
And this is just exterior.
What
We-
What if he doesn't get paid for 2 months? Do we push it back another 2 months?
No.
I'm hoping to have it prior to starting everything.
Well, I'm thinking, what if Randy gets started and then he doesn't get paid for a while and the money's held up?
I'm not starting until it gets paid.
He's getting
And I
paid
talked-
upfront.
Upfront 100%, and also for all the materials up front,
Yes.
100%?
I talked to him on the phone this morning, and he said push it off until after the 4th, and he should be able to take care of it.
And that's for all 5 phases? I
That's
mean,
for complete exterior. And I do have another
Interior.
invoice that I didn't get to you. which is
Just asbestos.
okay.
I think we had to
And the
go
total
over
is
it to get it.
125 or something.
So the first chance we would have to know officially as a council would be July 8th is our first council meeting. If you haven't received your money by July 4th,
Right.
I'm saying July 8th,
July 8th was our original deadline on this,
so
so
we file papers to raise that building also.
Yep.
And you can tell them that's what we're gonna do.
and if you get paid up front, you're telling me you can complete all, you got 5 phases here?
Right.
And you can complete all those in 6 months? I think that would be major progress on that property.
Right.
Yeah. Could be a great problem.
No, that's reasonable, knowing what you have to deal with over
Right.
there. Well, what do you have in the way of a crew?
I can get whatever crew I need.
Okay,
Right.
but I'm serious, if you haven't received, and I'd like to see you at the council meeting on the 8th.
On the 8th? Okay.
Find out if you've got your funds, and if not, we file the papers.
Okay.
Well, let's continue this to the July 8th council meeting, and we'll have those answers then.
Believe.
Motion to continue to July 8th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to continue the distressed property at 308 Chestnut to July 8th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Do you need any other action on that property tonight, Ethan?
No, like I said, that was just trying to be fair to the contractor that if you did want any more information, he could get that lined up by July 8th, so.
Yeah, Randy, I think what you've provided to us it's a great start,
Right.
and
I've been dealing with him for 6 months.
we understand.
And it's one thing, then another, then another.
That's good.
Yeah, so,
Which building is number 1?
yeah,
Building 1,
It'd be the south
south.
building closest to the road.
And then, of course, 2 would be closest
And
to
then
us, and then
2,
3 is the north
3.
Oh,
one.
I see that now, sorry.
okay. Well, Randy, we hope you get paid and you can get to work on these.
Thank you for your efforts,
Yeah, thanks,
and
Randy.
I know you're his agent, and that limits you to what you can say, but we'd like to be kept in the loop.
See some of the progress we can keep apprised on just via the building permit, but unless Brad corrects me, I believe you all, like when you meet on the 8th, you can still set subsequent status updates. So say like in 6 weeks, we want you as the contractor to come back, tell us what you've done,
Yes, sir.
so.
I would plan on that, Randy.
Or swing by.
You can write in an extra charge for
There you
Ozzy
go.
for attending meetings and
And
giving
it
us
won't be.
status updates. So, thank you. Thanks
Okay.
for coming in.
No problem.
Thank you, Randy.
So, next, we're gonna talk about a distressed property at 217 Main. Where are we at on that one, Ethan?
This one is to, I guess, allow you and Council President Torres to share your thoughts now that you two have been through the building, because that's kind of where we were at.
He's throwing that one back on you and I, George. You wanna go ahead and give your opinion on the structure?
Yeah, well, as we walked through there, we could tell that portions of the building which were much more structurally intact than other portions of the building. And after just walking through the whole thing, we just kind of came up with the possibility, would this building lend itself to something similar to what we did on the other side of Main Street? Tearing down that back half, and if need be, tearing off the second story and keeping the main floor. And considering what we're gonna have into it, if we have to tear it down, if we can salvage part of it, and possibly if there are grants available, maybe we can figure a way out to not take such a hard hit on this thing. But there's some possibilities. I think we need to have the engineer in one more time on this to give us some direction on what we were both seeing out there. So, Mr. Mayor, if you want to.
Yeah, my initial examination of the building, we went to the second story on the front part of the building. It was dry. I mean, I don't know what kind of condition that roof's in up there, but the first part of the building itself seems to be, it's not perfect, it's an old building, but it's structurally sound. The floors felt real solid and everything. There's probably a potential we can remove some of the additional buildings that were added onto the back of that thing and salvage the front part of it. At the end of the day, it's gonna be what's most economical for the city. And by that, I mean, if we can take ownership of the building, I don't think there's any immediate public danger from that building. So we could wait a while, file for some grants over the next grant cycle. And if we receive HEAL grants, I think you call them, if we could get some HEAL grants that would help. And the only way those HEAL grants were eligible for those is if we do intend on saving the building. I think we need to get another structural guy in there and see if what George and I are seeing is reasonable. And then perhaps file for some of those grants. And if we get a grant, then we proceed and try to save part of that building. If we don't get a grant, then we just raise it. That's kind of where I'm at on it right now. We're gonna get stuck with the building no matter what, council, so we probably need to look at the most economical way to try to salvage something out of that property or bring it clear down. It's just gonna be a matter of what we do.
What is going to be the least financial impact to the community is what we're hoping for. Also try to keep an asset if we can.
So probably the first thing we need to do is try to secure ownership of the property before we lose contact with the property owner again, because there has been some period of time where he was hard to get a hold of. So if he's still willing to quit claim the property over, that's probably what we need to do. Do you have any questions for the governing body, Ethan or Brad, regarding that property?
No, if that's the general wish, that was the discussion, it's been a while, but he said, as long as I don't get stuck with, oh, by the way, we need you to pay for the cost of doing this, and this. It's kind of as is, where is. And that was what he offered. Except he wanted his pool tables.
He needs to come and get them.
Yeah, and part of that quick claim process, we need to put a definite timeline on that. You got 30 days to clear your stuff out. What you get between now and then is yours. What you leave is ours.
Yeah.
We'd like to make this transfer happen as quick as possible. We just don't want this to be a vapor that's so close and then it goes away again.
Yeah.
The rest of you council that wasn't present for the walkthrough, what's your position on the building at the time?
I mean, I think we should preserve Main Street if we can. But we have to be smart about it too.
Yeah, that's kind of the approach that George and I are wanting to take with the building, and we don't quite have those answers yet. But I felt better about that potential after being in the building.
Well, I wonder too, I mean, if you apply for a grant, you preserve or do what you can with the building, then could we lease the building to someone that was, or sell or something like that back or not?
Number of possibilities.
Possibly. It just, at the end of the day, it's gonna depend on how much money the city's willing to put into it. Typically, we are willing to make it a safe, stable shell and then sell it to somebody else that'll continue the work to turn it into a viable business. Much like we did with 204, and she was able to receive some grants on that, and that's gonna be a really nice property in town one of these days that we still have. And maybe we can find a way to do something similar to this. At the end of the day, it's gonna cost the city some money, but the city's in it for the long haul. If we can keep that property on the tax rolls for another 100 years, maybe we'll get our money back.
Right.
So, maybe.
That's optimistic.
Well, it's the only way you can look at those projects. Small communities like ours are facing these issues on their old Main Street buildings all over. And you can either be proactive and try to save it, or just come in and tear a block down like Burton did, what, 2 years ago? How many downtown Main Street buildings did they lose in that demo?
The whole block.
Yeah, it was a whole block. And I don't think anybody wants to see that happen here in Halstead, so. We'll just see if we can get ownership, and we'll continue on George and I's theory, and I guess if this all goes to heck in a handbasket later, you can blame me and George for it. So, do we need any other action on that tonight? Any formal action?
I think we should do a motion.
Get a motion.
Revisit it at the July 8th meeting?
Well, I'd get a motion actually, or ask for a motion that directs staff to begin trying to acquire the
Procure the
property.
building.
With that, Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to direct staff and council to set forward in acquiring the building. And also, I'd like to set up, to revisit this at the July 8th council meeting.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second for multiple things. First, we're gonna try to secure ownership of this property at 217 Main, and we are gonna continue this distressed property hearing to the next council meeting. Did I get that right? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, thank you, council. Next item on our agenda is the city property 103 West 10th Street, the disposition of that. As council is aware, we did advertise the house to be moved. Did not really get any offers for that, and Ethan has some bids for a demo.
Yeah, same three companies that we contacted for bid on the Townsman also submitted bids on the property there on 10th Street. You have Becker Building as the low bid at $78.64. I guess just want to disclose, there is an expressed interest from a party in moving the house, but they could not provide a firm timeline, and they no longer had a definitive place to move it. So they very much understood if the city needed to move forward in our process, since they couldn't give us a good window. So, and we don't have any plans for any structure to go back on 10th Street. It would basically go to grass, green space. Eventually, hopefully, we'd run sidewalk that connects where we ended the Main Street Extension sidewalk, and then get it connected over to the Chestnut network. So,
Well, I would motion to approve the quote for Becker Building for $7,864.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the demolition of the property, city-owned property at 103 West 10th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes. And I believe utilities have been disconnected from that, right, Pat?
They're off. I don't know if they've been disconnected.
Okay. Now that this action has been taken, I guess we need to make sure that's done.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. That's something you can take care of? Or, okay.
I believe so.
Well, great. Let's get her done.
If I can't do it, I got a couple guys that could.
All right, that finishes up our unfinished business. We'll move on to new business, and the first item under new business is a pasture lease on, this is the Tebow property that the city bought.
yeah. You have, and I believe Brad sent it out electronically as well. This is just his revision on a pasture lease agreement for the city. It basically makes it 1 year, but then option to renew for up to 5 one-year terms. Gives the rent, but also has the caveat that that can be renegotiated by us annually, if needs be, depending on the market condition, understanding that 4 years from now, maybe market rates are different for pasture. I don't know, Brad, if you have anything else.
The only other thing that I put in this one that oftentimes, if I'm sitting on the other side of the table, I don't necessarily want to see is a stocking rate. Intensity of use, you don't want it overgrazed, you don't want it torn up. And so in terms of husbandry of the land, you want some ability to make sure somebody doesn't put, 50% too many animals in there in terms of supporting it and still keeping the growth going okay in terms of what's there on the way of surface. So I did put that in. I didn't specify a particular number of pairs or anything like that, just indicating that we have the ability to control and specify, and that would be done on an annualized basis as well. So you're not necessarily telling them in the middle of a year and pulling the rug out from under them.
Yeah, because it could depend on how much rain you've had.
That's exactly right.
What about maintaining like trees and stuff like that.
The general notations in there are there to, maintain it to a standard, which is, in terms of if it gets overgrown or that sort of thing, we have the ability to come in and command that something be done in that regard. So, fairly standardized type of provisions. In one, I don't think there would be anything there that would surprise anyone.
Any trees that could potentially be causing nuisance, it would be back on the leasee to take care of that.
That's the way we are set up right now because they have exclusive control. Fences and stuff, and, all of that is generally, statutes in Kansas are 150 years old on a lot of that stuff, but generally what we do is place all of that on the tenant. And that's part of the reason why your pricing is the way it is too, in that you're saying, we're not gonna get involved in that, gotta keep the animals. Actually, that's not true. I have to say it the way it really is. The fences are not to keep animals in, it's to keep other animals out. In Kansas and in most states that graze. It's a weird way of thinking about it, but that is truly how it works. But nevertheless, they've got to work on both sides of that fence, so the expectation is they will maintain those.
So let's say cows get out and ruin a neighbor's sprinkler system. That's on
them.
then, okay. We don't have any liability there.
No.
Sounds good.
All right.
Just need a motion to accept this, right?
Yeah, approve it and authorize me to execute it.
We don't have to authorize, but yeah, can certainly do that.
Still used to that.
I move we city manager authorization to execute this contract.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for Ethan to renew this pasture lease. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Awesome. Next, under new business, not so new business, storm and tree cleanup. Evidently, Ethan feels like giving an update on that.
So we've been working diligently, the May 19th, so just want to, again, thank Pat and his crew for everything they've done, and then all of our mutual aid partners that have helped us and the contractors we brought in. We have made the initial pass-throughs of the city, so every street has been touched at least once. Obviously, there's still piles that have come out. The plan is basically to allow Public Works to take a breath, get caught up on some other things that have been deferred the last couple of weeks. And then the week of July 8th, we will make a one-time pass through the city, very similar to what we do biannually in the spring and fall, to get any other remaining things that are curbside, get those collected and out to the burn site. Of course, the public can still take things to the burn site if they want at any point. As we're moving farther into recovery, I guess the big thing we're kind of looking for some guidance now is, I'm sure some of you have seen, and the rains have helped a little bit with some of the dirt anyway, but there's still a lot of small debris and stuff that have been left on city streets. We obviously do have our street sweeper, but that's going to be a monumental task. Normally we bought our street sweeper with the intent of not having to contract street sweeping as normal. I'd say this kind of falls out. So it was one with Old Settlers a month away. Do you all want us to look into contracting potentially to try and hit the streets? Because again, I don't even know, Pat, if we put the hours, if it's even possible for us to run the street sweeper. We could hit the main streets that are frequented on Old Settlers, I think, without a problem, but it's not gonna be a citywide sweep that we could probably get manpower-wise with just one street sweeper operating, not to mention, those are, brush brooms more meant for gutter and some of the debris and stuff there's too. It's gonna be pretty hard on our equipment.
What's the approximate cost to enter into a one-time
When we were.
citywide?
A one-time citywide was running us between 16 and 20,000, depending on how much debris there was. So,
And there's a lot of debris, and that'd be really rough on our machine.
Probably one of my primary concerns, and Pat, you might be able to help me with this, with all this debris and the rains we've had, some of our storm drains probably have a lot of stuff piled in them. Is that something that with that vacuum trailer with our hydro excavator, we can go through and clean those out.
Some of them, yes.
I think that's probably gonna be something we're gonna have to put on the schedule to take a look at. As far as the street sweeping, I agree with Ethan, all the debris in the streets, it is gonna be a little rough on our machine, and, you know, I don't wanna tear it up the first year we have it, so. I mean, I would be okay with a one-time street
Some
sweep
of
to
this
try to
stuff too
clean all
big.
this.
Like, does it need cleaned up first, or?
Yeah, we would probably have to go, I think, to some, just talking with Pat, at least as far as our machine, not knowing exactly what a contractor might bring in that would be, they can handle bigger things than you'd think, but, like if any areas that we're gonna hit with ours, we'll definitely would send out like our skid steer with it, with the bucket to get anything that potentially would damage. So, I don't know, Pat, if you have any thoughts on.
And then the timing of this, like, is it still too early to do that? Or are you gonna wait till we,
I think we would probably wait and see if the contractor could hit us, the week, like July 22nd or July 29th. So our guys, I mean, we hope that July 8th will be only take them maybe the week of, but depending on how much shows up between now and then curbside, yeah, it could take a couple weeks, so.
16 or 20,000, how will that impact our budget? And where is that gonna be coming from?
It still was a budgeted expenditure because we hadn't, taken it off yet since
Want to
we
hear
bought.
that? I wanted to hear that.
We had bought the, street sweeper, after we had already prepared the 2024 budget, so, we did budget like we were gonna street sweep. And that comes out of the special street and highway fund, which, as we've done more larger capital transfers and gas taxes that we receive have reduced, that's largely become a more maintenance item fund than like capital improvement fund, so,
But we're not gonna take it on the chin too hard with this then.
you know.
If there's any questions or no more discussion, Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to have Ethan pursue a citywide street sweeping with the contractor.
We have a motion and a second to approve a one-time through contractor on street sweeping here in Halstead. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
No, I'll bring it back. Okay. Then the other, item as we talk about storm cleanup is, you know, as it's been hot, things are drying out. The hangers that are still, street trees, we don't have, you know, if something's firmly in someone's backyard, I don't know that we have quite of an ability to go in and mandate those be cleaned up, but, you know, stumps, technically, we have ordinances on the books that don't allow for stumps to be left in street trees, which would be, you know, those trees between the sidewalks and the curb. I guess just looking for some direction of you all of how aggressive, we know people are gonna need time, it's not cheap to contract people to go up in trees and do this. We'll start assessing of what we think is like actual, you know, danger as far as, you know, to sidewalks and or streets. But again, it's kind of looking for some direction from you all of how aggressive do you guys want to get on contacting property owners and stuff if they have additional tree work that needs to be done. And again, this is not like we're gonna send out letters tomorrow.
as far as stumps, I think it's a little too early to ask. I don't know.
Well, and even some of the hangers on street trees, I have two trees on the north side of my property, and I don't see anything dangerous in them, but there are some dead limbs up there, and I've contracted with our local tree guy, and it's gonna take him a while to get there. So I don't think we need to take a real hard look at it until 6-7 months down the road,
I'd say that's fair.
because there's gotta be time for people to contract, and a lot of people are gonna wanna use the same local guy I'm using. And, he just needs some time to get in and get those things done, so. You
I think
know,
when the time does come, we shouldn't let it sit, you know, shouldn't let those tree trunks and stumps sit out there. They need to be taken care of. So when time comes, we gotta get.
And I think down the road, we can probably address that on a case-by-case basis. You know, and it's simple as approaching the homeowner first, hey, you need to crack this. And then we don't need any further action unless they refuse to do it, then we may need to take further action.
What's the city's policy on alley cleanup? I know what it is, but I'd like the citizens to hear it.
We will not be going down alleys and cleaning them up, so
It just goes on and on and on.
it's,
The task is so huge and, yeah.
Well, and the problem is we're moving big equipment, big dump trucks, loaders, and you just can't maneuver those down some of those tight alleys. So, the brush needs to be curbside on the street side, and then we'll pick it up, which, by the way, the city's not even obligated to do that. But we do it out of a courtesy to the residents, so. We're just asking you to work with us and get it to the front, and we'll get it picked up and hauled to the burn site.
Okay.
All right, so are we done with the storm and tree cleanup, Ethan?
yep, gives me what I need to do.
We do have a couple of executive sessions this evening. I would entertain the motion for the first one, just as soon as Ethan writes it and hands it to Charlie. Okay, we can make Shauna do it tonight. That was a great idea, Julie.
Julie could do it? No.
There's two. We'll let Shauna do the first one. Charlie can do the second one.
See, I can pass it just as easy as Brad.
Rookies.
Start your stopwatch.
I move that the Halstead City Council recess into executive session to discuss pending litigation involving the city of Halstead pursuant to the consultation with the city attorney on matters that would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship exception KSA 754319B2. And ask that in addition to the governing body, the following persons join the governing body in executive session: city manager, city attorney. The open meeting and governing body to reconvene in the city council chambers at 7:55 PM.
Second.
Awesome job, Shauna. We have a motion and a second to enter into executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, council. We'll move to the back room.
Microphone.
Okay, we are back from our executive session. Is there any action to be taken as a result of? Hearing nothing from the council, I would entertain the motion for our second executive session.
I move that the Halstead City Council recess into executive session to discuss duties and performance of a city employee pursuant to personnel matters of non-elected personnel exception, Kansas statutes annotated 754319B1, and ask in addition to the governing body, the following persons join the governing body in executive session: the city manager and the city attorney. The open meeting and governing body to reconvene in the city council chambers at 8:05 PM.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to enter into executive session. Again, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. We are in executive session. We'll move to the back room, council. We are back from our executive session. Is there any action to be taken as a result of?
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to allow, that would allow the city administrator to carry his hours over,
On his vacation,
on his vacation, yes, I'm sorry.
beyond what
Beyond
policy?
beyond
what policy?
Yes, beyond the policy.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for our city manager to carry over his vacation time beyond what the policy allows because he missed a vacation during the storm damage. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right, that passes. You're off the hook, Ethan.
Thank you.
That moves us to the report section of our agenda, and we always start with governing body comments. So tonight, I'm gonna start with, I picked on Shauna earlier, so it's your turn, Charlie.
Okay,
Start with you.
that's fine. I still commend the groups that have done the cleanup.
Oh, absolutely.
There are some people in town that aren't commending some of the work that was done because their lawns and whatever got chewed up a little bit.
I would say you have to break a few eggs to make an omelet, right?
Yeah, I know. I know, I'm well aware. But I'm not complaining. And someone asked, and this is probably throw this toward Shauna, I said, are we ever gonna have a soccer field? Why not? I didn't have an answer, because I'm not in that arena. Something I also noticed doing some digging, and I'm very grateful to what Nisley does with the dumpsters. If you're not aware, Newton has a transfer station coupon. And if you get 2 a year. And so the city of Newton picks up the tab if you take the stuff to the transfer station. I wasn't aware of that until today. But
We may need to find out that policy and put it on a newsletter or something.
I actually reached out to the city of Newton when the May 19th weather kicked in, asking if we could maybe get an exception and get some of those vouchers for Halstead residents, and they declined at that time. It is for Newton
Strictly a
residents.
Newton policy.
yeah, because the city of Newton picks up the tab.
Yep.
Okay.
I realize
makes
that.
sense.
It's
Yep.
not Harvey County. They're picking up the tab.
So I tried.
Harvey County might do it, but
They turned
That'd
me
be
down.
something
Don't
we
hold
would have
your
to
breath
adopt
on that.
ourselves.
okay. I also want to warn people, it's hot, it's humid, it's fireworks season. Be careful, be cautious of where you are. And I know the police is going to, I'm not saying we abolish fireworks. I didn't say that. I mean, people really need to be careful because of the conditions we're going to be facing between now and July the 4th. That's what I got.
Okay, let me go to you, George.
Couple things. Again, have many citizens reaching out saying thanks to the city and the crews and staff for doing what they've done. And again, the independent groups and organizations that are out there, everybody's just helping each other, and there are many thanks going out. Another item, as we, as a council, are considering some of these new projects, the ball fields and streets and other items, these are gonna be big ticket items, North Street. We wanna keep, make sure we keep in sight that we've got that wastewater treatment plant pending down there also. That's an absolute must down the road. So as we're considering these new projects, gotta make sure, because we've had a study done on that. I don't know if you're familiar, we had a study done on it. As far as equipment that's gonna need to be replaced, and it's gonna be a big ticket. So we just wanna keep that on the radar also as we proceed with these other projects. And that's all I have.
Mr. Homewood.
Nope, both good points.
Shauna.
I don't think I really have anything.
Okay, and to George's point, it is budget season. We're going through that budget and trying to put that together. And as always, this body's pretty cognitive about not raising taxes, and that's always been our position. And with some of these projects hanging out there that we know we're gonna have to do, we are gonna have to tighten our purse strings up a little bit so we can manage those projects without asking the public for more money. So just be patient that some of the things that you want may be delayed because of the things that the city needs. And that's really the only thing I've got to say about that. With that, we'll move on to Ethan for his city manager report. And when you're done with that, you can move right into the financial, Ethan.
All right. The 9th Street improvements are set to go out to bid with the opening for that scheduled on July 9th. So hopefully our second meeting in July, we'll have those bids to present for your consideration on the 9th Street improvements as we got the plan sets finalized. The wayfinding signs plan project is almost finished as far as the design plans for those. And then we'll get a site visit scheduled and a final copy of what the signs will say. And that hopefully will take place in the next week or two. The new Clover systems for the pool and the golf course have come in, and staff are working with Bank Card on the setup. And then we're also waiting on a little bit of IT work at the pool before it'll go into use there at the pool. But we are able to take credit cards again. Just want to thank the public because the last couple of weeks we were unable to take cards as we were transitioning those vendors other than taking them online. So just thank everyone for their patience, and we should be able to take cards now at City Hall. As talked about during storm cleanup, we did the initial pass-through, and then starting July 8th, we'll do a final one-time pass-through of the city to collect any other material as far as tree or yard debris that is curbside. So hope everyone, even though it's hot, takes the next couple of weeks if they have some things that might still be in their backyard or alleys or whatever and gets that street side, so we will pick it up. Fireworks sale and discharge, as we won't have a meeting before that. Just a reminder, it is allowed in the city of Halstead from July 2nd through the 4th from 8 a.m. to midnight all 3 days. And you are not to be shooting on public property. And then again with the amount of debris, et cetera, that still may be in certain areas, just asking people to please pay attention to what they're doing, especially this year with it being hot and dry. The Reserve a Dumpster program is back and we are working on getting people that were on the wait list to get their dumpsters first. So we will gladly take new reservations though for that. And then as far as tree cleanup, when we presented our initial numbers to Department of Emergency Management and Harvey County Emergency Management, as they're looking to put some dollar cost to this storm and report that upwards. We had collected just shy of 18,000 cubic yards of tree material. And to equate that into tonnage, that's approximately 3,500 tons. I know when Department of Emergency Management came out, they were really hoping to see a giant tree pile, and we had mostly just a giant pile of ash. So again, just can't thank Pat and his staff enough of keeping that going, making sure it was safe and contained the whole time, because we just didn't have room to store it before we started burning it. So it's staggering how much material went out there. And again, thank you to all the contractors, all the residents, everyone, because we wouldn't be where we were and where we are in the city without everyone pulling together. So thank you a lot from the city staff. A reminder that there are plumbing surveys that were sent out, and we would just ask that people please try and get those in. And then we are having a open house on July 1st to allow public comment and questions on the proposed concept plans for Lehman and Scout Park. So that will be here in this room, the council chambers, from 6:30 to 8 next Monday on July 1st. So we'll have some refreshments for those that attend. Just hope the public comes and engages and lets us know.
Could you send the council a reminder on that, Julie? Thanks.
So,
And also, will you possibly have something on the marquee or the?
Yes.
Okay, very good, thank you.
and Buffman is planning to have, some larger concepts. We'll of course pull them up on the screens too, but that way people can actually see. I know we were making you guys all look at smaller versions during the work session, so. Okay, financial, not a lot as we're getting ready to do
Right
our,
before you get started on the financial. Yeah. I have a question. There was a rumor, maybe I heard it from Charlie, that Newton received some assistance for their storm damage. Are you aware of any of that?
no
Was
assistance.
it you that brought it up, Charlie? Somebody brought it up to me earlier that Newton received some assistance from a state agency on storm damage, and I don't know if it's true or not. But
I don't know of any dollars yet that have been passed out. It's way too early in the process, to my knowledge, because they just had the meeting last week. I mean, where they were getting initial, like, we had to turn in all our staffing numbers,
okay.
tree
So-
tonnage and all that, so.
Basically, everybody's applied the numbers and we're sitting and waiting to see if we do receive.
Yeah, and the way that works, because I do know there's been, some public is in a disaster, the county has to meet a threshold of basic loss, and that's uninsured loss. And then the state as a whole has to meet a threshold, and that's a, percentage based on population. And then if the state meets, then they can apply to FEMA at that point, and that still doesn't guarantee that you would actually get assistance. That has to be, approved by the president, so on and so forth. So no indication yet, I think, if the state is even going to approach its thresholds.
Odds are we probably won't get a thing out of it, but it'd be nice if we got enough to cover the tree contractors that we hired and cover this street sweeping we're gonna do. I just wanted to bring that up. You can continue with your financial report.
Bro. Not a lot, as we'll have a more in-depth, second quarter update for you here, at the next meeting, hopefully. But, we still continue to be in pretty much the same cash position, as we were last year. Just the big flip is the general fund obviously is down again, reflecting those accelerated gas loan payments. And then the general fund continues to be in a better cash position compared to, same time last year. And that, again, is being bolstered mostly by our strong sales tax collections and then stronger than originally budgeted for interest income. So not a whole lot to stand out or report to you guys as far as trends. It's mostly the same thing we've been reporting all year. No departments are really out of line, and nothing that concerns us in terms of like our utility funds where rates aren't keeping up with the needs of the departments. So financially, we're in good shape. We're obviously pulling this and trying to put it to give us a good idea on that 2025 budget. So unless there's any specific questions, you have the capital improvement funds there on the back, and then the budgeted funds. One note I will make is based on some clarification in state law. Starting in 2025, you'll see a new budgeted fund pop up, which is the opioid or the municipalities fight addiction fund. We'll start treating that as a budgeted fund every year. So that's currently not on this list, and we finally got some clarification this year from the state of how they wanted that handled. So that's not a super robust fund in terms of how much money we get, but those are dedicated funds that we get from any opioid settlements that the state of Kansas secures. And then we have to use that for opioid or addiction mitigation and treatment. So very specific what we can use that for.
Sounds good. Council, any questions from either one of Ethan's reports? If not, that does finish up our agenda this evening, and I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
Mr. Mayor, I'd move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you, council.